Everyone, this is Larry. Welcome back to Today I Feel Like. Today, I'm going to review the DJI Action 2. I have the dual screen combo, so let's jump into it, talk about the good and the bad, and here we go. All right, let's go ahead and jump into the good and the bad of the DJI Action 2. And the first thing up that you're going to notice, the first good point and first new point that you're going to notice about this camera is that there is a new form factor. So it's now much more of a cube shape. It has a magnetic connection system, and it really is just smaller and lighter than the previous model and than other action cameras. Now, a downside to that small form factor and the new materials, because this new camera is made out of, I believe it's an aluminum housing instead of a plastic housing, but as a consequence to that housing material and the small form factor, you end up with a camera that gets very, very hot and is prone to overheating. So let's talk a little bit about the overheating issue, and that's a bad point, obviously, but there are some things that you can do to mitigate the overheating issue. One of them is, in the settings, there are two heat settings. There's standard and high, and you can set that on high so that your camera does not shut off as early when it starts to heat up. But your camera, it's gonna get hot, and it actually gets physically hot to the touch because of that housing. So just be aware that it can be a little shocking, a little bit jarring the first time you touch your camera and it's as warm as it is. Now, also, if you're shooting in different modes, you're going to experience the overheating more so than the other. So for instance, if you're shooting in 4K 60 or 4K 120, you're going to get overheating much faster than if you were shooting at 4K 24 or 4K 30. Now, on the good side, I can say I've had very, very little trouble with the overheating issue. Now, I can't tell you my camera gets hot, but for instance, I was in the car, I was shooting a hyperlapse with the camera mounted to my windshield on the inside of the car. I had both screens on, and I was driving for probably an hour and a half, and it got hot, but it never shut off, it never stopped recording, and so even though it does get hot, I haven't had any trouble with the overheating just yet. Now, I can also say I rarely shoot in 4K 60 or 4K 120. I most of the time am shooting in 4K 24. So for me, I don't have those overheating issues. But if you're somebody who does a lot of action sports and you want your frame rates very high, this could be a real problem for you. All right, let's go ahead and talk about the price. And I have to say, with the pricing, well, there's no good and bad. It's just all bad. And that is because with the DJI Action 2, you have to buy either the dual screen combo or the combo with the power module. The dual screen combo is $519. The combo with the power module is $399, and you cannot buy the camera alone because there's no way to charge the camera by itself. You have to have either the power module or the dual screen module to actually charge the camera. Now, another bad point in regards to pricing with this camera is, well, not only is it expensive, but the overall cost of ownership is very high as well. That is because if you want extra batteries, well, the battery module is $79. That is very expensive for a battery. When you compare that to the older DJI Osmo Action or other action cameras like the GoPro, you're talking about $20, maybe $25 for a battery. You can often buy third-party aftermarket batteries for $5 or $10, $15. But with this camera, you're talking about $79 for the battery module. And if you're somebody like me who uses the dual screen combo and you want to maintain that second screen, that front-facing screen, it's going to cost you $169 to get an extra front screen, an extra screen module that also functions as a battery. So it's very, very expensive to operate this camera, and the overall cost of ownership is just much higher than other action cameras. Now, the last bad thing in regards to pricing is, well, the memory cards, and that is because you're going to need fast memory cards for this camera so you don't end up with those slow memory card errors. Now, I have a number of memory cards that I've been using that are supposed to meet the camera specifications. I have the Class 10 U3 V30 memory cards. I actually have the SanDisk cards that they recommend from their site. I also have some of the other ones from Samsung and some other manufacturers that they actually are list on the DJI site as approved cards, except I've still been getting those slow memory card errors when I'm using the camera. And at times when I get those errors, I have this thing where the audio drops out of the camera. So let me show you an example right quick of what I mean when the memory card is too slow and it starts to just drop big chunks of audio.
That doesn't have a mask on. And everybody else is wearing a mask and wearing a mask properly, which I absolutely love seeing. So, yeah. All right. Well, let's get this thing going and hopefully be awesome.
So as you can see, that is a real problem. That is a big problem if you're filming or vlogging or something. All of a sudden, your audio just starts cutting out in chunks because you're getting slow memory card errors, even though you're supposed to have a memory card that is fast enough. So what I've had to do, well, is spend more money to buy faster cards. So I ended up going and buying a V60 card, which cost me more money, and they're more expensive. And yeah, it's just another thing that adds on to the price of owning this camera. All right, now let's talk about the field of view. And with the field of view, it's all good. Nothing but good things to say. Now, this new DJI Action 2 has a field of view of 155 degrees, which means it is wide. It is very, very wide, and I love that. One of the complaints that I had about the DJI Osmo Action, the original one, is that the field of view wasn't wide enough for me for vlogging. And oftentimes, I just didn't use it as a consequence. But the DJI Action 2 has a very, very wide field of view. And for video, you get 3 different field of views. You get the wide with, the standard with dewarped. That's going to make it so that you don't see all that curvature and everything going on in the image. Now, it's still very distorted at the edges of the image. So if like when I'm vlogging, if I have my hands going out on the edge, then you'll definitely see my hands look really big and distorted. I'm hoping maybe they'll come out with a firmware update that gives us like a linear mode so that it corrects some of that. We also get a wide mode, and that's going to make everything just a bit wider. And then you get ultra wide mode, which is just really sort of insane, where you can practically see all the way around you, it feels like. So yeah, there's some really, really nice field of view options with the DJI Action 2, which fixed the main complaint that I had with the original DJI Osmo Action. All right, let's go ahead and talk about audio, and audio is mostly good. I have one point that's a little sticker point, but mostly it's good. And the first thing that I want to mention is that, well, I've had some issues with audio with DJI cameras in the past, but they've gotten it right with the DJI Action 2. And that is because you can plug pretty much any USB-C microphone into the USB-C port, and you now have good, clean audio going into this camera. You don't need any external adapters. You don't need any proprietary hardware. You can just grab a USB-C mic, plug it on in there, and it works. So I'm recording now, and I'm using the Saramonic Blink 500 Pro wireless microphone system. I have the B6 kit, which actually uses a USB-C port on the receiver. So I'm actually able to go ahead and hook up the wireless mic directly to my camera, and I don't need any adapters or any cables or anything else. So this makes it very, very easy and convenient to actually get a very good audio signal going right on in there. Now I just have the transmitter right underneath my shirt, so I'm gonna tap that. You can hear that. And again, the receiver is plugged right into the USB-C port of the camera. So you can use external microphones with this camera very, very easily. All you have to do is either make sure you have the right adapters, or in this case, just make sure you have a USB-C receiver or a USB-C connection for your microphone. I actually have another Saramonic mic right here. This is the Smart Mic Mini, which has the USB-C port on there. So I'm going to plug this in and we'll try it out too. I went ahead now and plugged in the Smart Mic Mini, the Saramonic Smart Mic Mini, and this is what you're listening to right now. So yeah, this is a little tiny USB-C connected microphone that you can plug directly into the camera and it just works. So yeah, this is an example of what it sounds like, and it's very, very nice because it's so small and compact. It really keeps the overall profile of your camera and your overall rig just nice, compact, and discreet. So if you're somebody who's out there who's vlogging, that's new to vlogging, or you just don't like people looking at you because you're afraid that if you have this big rig, people will look at you, this is a nice compact system to have because the camera's small, the mic's small, and basically it sounds really good. Now, another good thing about the DJI Action 2, especially if you have the power module or the dual screen module, is that the audio sounds really good. I was surprised that the audio actually sounds really good with this camera. And when you have the power module or the dual screen module, you get extra microphones that come on those different modules. So you have even a more immersive sound when you're filming with the DJI Action 2. So actually, let me go ahead, we'll go outside and I'll let you listen to what it sounds like when I'm filming with just the camera alone. Now I know everybody's not going to want to use an external microphone, or they may not have an external microphone to use, or they may be using their camera in such a way that an external microphone is just not really practical. So you may want to go ahead and just use the built-in microphones of the camera. And right now, what you are listening to are the built-in microphones of the camera. Now I do have the dual screen combo hooked up, which does add some extra microphones to the system. And so right now you're hearing that. I'm going to go ahead and take the dual screen off so that you can hear what it sounds like with just the microphones of the camera alone. I went ahead and took the screen off, as we can see right here. So now what you are hearing are just the built-in microphones of the DJI Action 2 camera alone. That's right, just the camera. So we're just using the microphones on there. And this is what you can expect. I'm, you know, a little less than arm's length apart, so I have it just sitting on a table here. So if you were going to sit down and talk to the camera, this is probably a good distance that you would expect to have it. So it's not too close, it's not too far, and you can expect that you're going to get, you know, nice clean pickup from this distance. So anyways, this is a sample of using just the built-in microphones of the Action 2 camera alone, not using the dual screen module. All right, so now on to the bad. And there is one bad point about the audio, and that is, well, it doesn't handle wind all that well. So that's a problem for people who are doing action sports. If you're riding a bike, or maybe you're rollerblading or skateboarding, or you're doing some other sort of action sport where you're in motion, that the camera just doesn't handle wind noise very well. Even if you're just vlogging and you're outside and there's a lot of wind noise and you're using the built-in microphones generally sound good. But once that wind kicks up, it really disrupts your audio. All right, next thing, let's talk about frame rates. And frame rates, there's plenty of them. DJI really went all out and made sure we had everything we needed anywhere between 24 frames and 120 frames a second. So we're going to be able to get that nice cinematic 24 frames a second look that people often shoot films on. Or you can get that more TV look at 30 frames a second. Or if you're out there and you're vlogging or you're doing some mild action sports, you can shoot it at 60 frames a second. Or if you really want to slow things down, you can shoot at 4K 120, and that way you can get really nice, buttery smooth, slow motion that looks nice and crisp. But here's a caveat. If you're shooting in the higher frame rates, you're going to be limited to the amount of time that you can shoot. If you're shooting 4K 120, you're going to be limited to about 5 minutes, and then you're going to start getting overheating issues. If you're shooting at 4K 60, it's going to be a little bit longer, maybe about 15 or 20 minutes, and then you're going to start getting those same overheating issues. All right, let's go ahead and talk about stabilization. And I have to say that I am very, very pleased with the DJI Action 2's Rocksteady 2.0 stabilization. I think it works really well. Now, my image stabilization needs are different from other people. Some people are doing action sports where they're skiing or they're surfing or they're riding bikes or they're skateboarding, all kinds of stuff. And so some people may have more intense image stabilization needs than I do. For me, I want my image stabilization to look good while I'm outdoors walking and talking and vlogging. And that's pretty much it. I don't really care about all the other stuff that much. But I will say that I still think it's going to work for everyone because the Rocksteady 2.0 works that well. Now, some people have complained about the image stabilization with the DJI Rocksteady 2. I think it's fine. I like the way it works. It seems to keep my image and my footage nice and steady. And what you're experiencing right now is me just walking using the standard field of view with dewarp on and Rocksteady 2.0 activated. So I'm gonna go ahead and start running a little bit here. So I'm just holding the camera out in front of me, and this is what it looks like if you are out running holding this camera using the Rocksteady 2.0. And again, right now I'm using the standard field of view with the dewarp on, and I'm running a little bit here so you can get an idea of what this looks like. So now on to the bad point of the image stabilization, and that is if you're filming in low light, the DJI Action 2, like other action cameras, uses electronic image stabilization, and electronic image stabilization does not look good at night or in low light. You really end up with this sort of poor quality looking footage that sort of has this weird shake to it, especially if you're walking. Anytime the camera moves, it's trying to stabilize the footage and it just can't do it well in low light or at night. All right, so let's talk about the battery and battery life now. And I have to say that, well, it is good and bad. One of the things is if you're filming with just the camera alone, the battery life is just okay. It's not good, it's not bad, it's just okay. It's sort of middle of the road. But once you put on either the power module or the touchscreen module, then your battery life really is stepped up. And I've been able to actually film for an hour and a half with both screens on and have plenty of battery life. So I'm very, very pleased with that. It has made my filming throughout the day very easy because it's rare that I'm filming in long stretches like that. I'm usually filming in short bursts, short clips, and so a battery module or the touchscreen module is going to allow you to get through your whole day of filming and vlogging without having to worry about a dead battery. All right, now let's talk about the bad of the battery, and there is a big downside to the batteries here, and that is they are expensive, very expensive. In fact, if you have the dual screen combo and you want to have a second battery or second dual screen, it's going to cost you $169. That's right, $169. Now, if you bought the power module combo and you want to have an extra battery or an extra power module, it's going to cost you $79. That is just crazy expensive, especially when you compare that to the batteries of other action cameras, including like the original DJI Osmo Action. Those batteries were only like 20 bucks. If you have a GoPro, you can get those again for only like 20 bucks. You can even buy aftermarket batteries for less than that. So I have found what I've done instead of actually buying an additional power module or touchscreen module, I just simply bring along with me a external power bank, and I can plug it right into the USB-C port and charge things up when I'm not using the camera. All right, last but not least, let's talk about image quality. And I have to say, I was pleasantly surprised with the DJI Action 2. I thought because of the small size and weight that the image quality was going to suffer, but I have been pleasantly surprised how great the image quality is. It looks really nice, the images are sharp, the colors are very natural. Now, I generally like extra contrasty, really punchy, unnaturally saturated images. I know some people hate that. I'm one of those people that love it. And the DJI Action 2 does not give me that right out of the camera. It really gives me a much more realistic looking color rendition. But the nice thing is there's enough data in the video image that I can color grade it and get those punchy images if I want that. So I really like the image quality, and I like the way it looks out of the camera because it's very natural if I want that look, but I also love the fact that I can really toy with it in post and get it to look the way I want it to look. All right, everyone, so there we have it. That is it. That is a look at the DJI Action 2 action camera. And I have to say, this was a really nice camera. I actually started off sort of rocky with this camera, but I have grown to really, really enjoy using it, and I actually look forward to using it. There are some things that you're going to have to get used to because DJI did change up this camera quite a bit from the previous model. One of them is the way that this camera connects to things. It has this magnetic connection, so you're going to have to make sure that you're aware of that. The fact that the battery situation, to me, I think is really sort of janky in a sort of a backdoor way to just get way more money out of people. I don't like that. I'm really looking forward to some third-party manufacturers coming out with battery modules or front screen modules that are less expensive. I'm also looking forward to somebody coming out with a power adapter that you can actually plug into a wall or into a power bank that allows you to power the camera individually. It does have built-in memory. The camera itself actually has 32 gigs of built-in memory, but I think it's about 10 or 11 gigs of it are occupied with the operating system and the firmware, so you only get maybe about 22 gigs of actual storage that you can use with the camera. I really wish that DJI would have had a higher capacity model that was available, something like 64 gigs or 128 gigs. That would have been really, really nice. So, but all in all, I have to say this is a very, very nice camera. It is expensive. Does have a high cost of ownership, but if it's something that you're interested in, I don't think that the performance of the camera is going to let you down at all. So, anyways, I'm going to leave a link to it down below in the video description so that you can check it out. I'm also going to leave a link to my Amazon page and my social media contacts so you can reach me elsewhere. And I hope you enjoyed seeing this video. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up. And please subscribe to this channel. And follow me on Instagram. And I am Larry with Today I Feel Like. Thanks for coming back to see me. Come back and see me soon. And until next time, love, peace, and hair grease. Peace.